Hi, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tech Exec Podcast, where I'll help you create teams worth leading, because life's too short to lead a mediocre one. As always, I'm your host, Aviv Ben-Yosef, tech executive coach and consultant, and our subject today is things left unsaid. As you probably have noticed, most of the times, whatever I'm speaking about in my podcast episodes relates to something that I've been noticing more and more often in my work. And this time, it's about just me noticing that so many good, talented people are allowing themselves to remain silent over things, and it just ends up, biting them in the rear. Because when you think that silence is your best weapon, a lot of the times it is not. And when we allow ourselves to just clamp up and don't speak up for a variety of reasons, oftentimes it is the wrong thing to do, even if it's easier in the moment. You might not speak up because you feel like you might come off as stupid, because you think that whatever you're not understanding is obvious to others, or maybe you think that your idea that you want to suggest is actually something, okay, they probably had already thought about it because they're smart and therefore they have a good reason for not doing it, etc. All of those reasons are reasons that might, again, make things easier for you in this second not to speak up, but at the end of the day, they end up hurting you. Let's quickly go through 3 real stories I saw, and then I'll share my dead simple exercise to make some progress in this. Okay? First example, and I'm sure you've seen it in the past if you didn't commit it yourself, is remaining silent about an employee that needs to get some harsh feedback, that needs some truth be given to them, and you delay doing that more and more and more till you finally reach the point of no return. You let those things that were not being done correctly to be left unsaid for too long till you finally reach the point where now the CEO tells you, I'm sorry, but that guy has got to go. Or you look and you sense that the improvement would have to be so dramatic, so big that it's generally impossible. Product already have now marked that engineer as someone they never want to talk to, never want to speak to. So they're like, okay, I don't care what you're going to be doing. That person is already marked. And that's the first crucial mistake that so many people do. We have good feedback to give to people. We can help them get better, but we wait. We wait because at the beginning, maybe we tell ourselves that we're busy, or maybe they're going to improve, or maybe we just don't know exactly how to phrase it, or we don't want to hurt their feelings. Whatever excuse you're telling yourself, at the end of the day, what ends up happening is that a month, 2, or even more pass you by, and then you realize that, oh, damn, this has gotten way too far. That's example number 1. Example number 2 is when you have some genuinely good feedback to the CEO, but you don't speak up because you're afraid of being that person that always says that something might be problematic, that maybe that's not that good of an idea. This is you being there, seeing that maybe the CEO is requesting something that doesn't make sense, or you know that there's probably a better way of doing something, but you don't speak up because you want to please them. You want to be collaborative. And of course, I keep saying that we have to be in the default stance of trying to make things possible. But that does not mean that if you see an issue, you don't speak up about it. It's perfectly fine, especially if you're doing it from the right point of view. If your point of view, when you're asking a question about something that might be problematic, there are 2 different stances. There's the protective stance, where you see that someone asks you to do something, the CEO is talking about a new initiative, and your stance is that, of a batter. You're waiting for the ball to get you just so you can bat it as far away from you as possible. You're like, no, not feasible. Boom. That's not the right stance. But if what you're doing is from the point of view of, okay, let's get this done. I see some things that might be problematic. Let's tackle them together. Let's help me make sure that I understand how we want to address these. Or maybe we need to decide how to do this a bit differently because it's not that simple, but we can, let's find a way to get it done. If you have that, you're going to have the CEO be on your side because you turn from the shoot it down person to the enabler. And people like enablers when they enable good things. And one last example is when you're working with your peers and you see something, you hear something that doesn't make sense because you don't understand it entirely, but you don't speak up, you don't ask the question. They are speaking about a new plan, about a new service, about a new strategy, about trying something different, about why, they all know, oh, yeah, of course that doesn't work. And like, yeah, why? Why are we all nodding along? Why doesn't that work? If you're missing a part and you just let it slide in front of your peers because, you're afraid of seeming dumb, you're gonna remain dumb. And maybe you're not dumb. Maybe if you're asked the right questions, you're actually going to help others understand things that they didn't have clear. But if you will never ask the question, you're not going to get better. I'm starting to see a trend where people are claiming that they're sitting in meetings with, ChatGPT or whatever LLM and open in front of them. And when they hear something that they don't understand, rather than ask the people in the room, they're going to try and type it up real fast and say, hey, ChatGPT, what does it mean when marketing says that cost of acquisition is way too high? What's the standard? And you know what? A lot of the times, whatever it tells you isn't really appropriate for your specific context. So you're fooling yourself and you're not actually getting the response that you need to get. So I think the healthier thing is to speak up and talk to your peers. How can you get better at this? Let's talk about my dead simple exercise. This is something that I've been doing with my clients when I notice that this is an issue. And again, stupidly simple, but it works. And it actually can create a dramatic change in this habit within a week or two. What do? Very simple. At the end of the day, if you have a coach, you can do it with a coach. Like when needed, we do this on maybe over a 2-minute phone call. Maybe they just send me a text or on Slack. They do this at the end of every day. Ask them to say, okay, what's now your things left unsaid balance for the day? What has happened today that you registered that maybe you should have spoken up? And, these examples are good. Like, what feedback did you not give? What questions did you avoid asking? What pushback did you not say? And, just write down, yeah, I should have told Dave that idea was stupid. I didn't understand what they were talking about at the executive meeting, those things. And then we try to flip it around and say, okay, what are we going to do to cover that? Action items for each. If still by the end of the day they still feel like these are things that are material enough to fix, okay, how am I going to give that feedback, or how am I going to ask a question about that to make sure that I understand the context about the new project that we're going to start, and maintaining this and then creating an action item to tackle these for a week, 2, usually a month tops. Things get dramatically better because you get into the habit of being mindful of the things left unsaid and tackling these. And that's it. As I said, stupidly simple, but it works. It just needs some discipline. Yes, the discipline is much easier when you have a coach working with you, but you can do it yourself as well. I promise you, I've seen so many people do it. So that's your takeaway from this week's episode. Think about whether you need to start this Things Left Unsaid journal, and if so, just commence the exercise and see how you make rapid improvements. Come the next month, you're going to be a different person when it comes to this. And this is a major capability that's very important to any leader. Okay, that's it for this week. As always, if you have any questions or comments, my email's in the show notes, and I'm always happy to hear. And if you haven't yet, do check out my newsletter. It's the best newsletter online for tech execs, where every week you get this podcast, an article, a video, and some extra goodies. Link is in the show notes as well, and I'll see you here next week. Ciao.